Welcome to the Rocktirement podcast, brought to you by Circle Senior Living. I'm Gidon Novik, your host. Join me as I dive into the vibrant, dynamic lives of extraordinary people, bringing us inspiring stories and bold insights. Let's get started. Ruda, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a guest on the Rocktirement podcast. It's an experiment of sorts. It's an exploration into the lives of brilliant people in this beautiful country of ours that have had, like you've had, an incredible life and an incredible career. And I shouldn't say had, because it's very much in progress and in process, all the things that you're doing, both from a commercial point of view and from a charitable point of view and from a societal point of view, which we'll talk about. But thank you for being here. And I must say it's quite intimidating to be interviewing you. What does it feel like to be sitting, let's say, on the other side of the room?
It's nervous-making.
Don't be nervous, you'll be fine.
Because as Peter Dirk, another guest of yours, said to me long ago, in the persona of Evita, he said, I know the questions, but I do not know the answers. But now in this case, I know the questions, but I do not know the answers.
Yes. Well, I can just imagine how all those interviewees and subjects that you had in your carte blanche years, and we won't just talk about carte blanche, because I know like people associate you with carte blanche, which there's so much more to you, which we'll uncover today. But carte blanche was an incredible thing, and you did incredible work there, and you uncovered lots of stuff in a fearless, very direct and very important way. So I think that's appreciated, and we can touch on that. But it's nice to be talking to you and just really asking you about your life, and maybe just to start off with that era of your life, which was getting into the heads of other people and understanding, you know, what they were up to, what they were thinking, why they were doing the things that they were doing. I mean, were there any big lessons from a human point of view that came out of that?
You know, one must always see carte blanche in the context of the time.
Yeah.
We started in 1988. South Africa, think of South Africa and think of what we went through in the next 5, 7, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
It was an amazing time. I always say, you know, Wordsworth wrote about the French Revolution nogal.
Yeah.
Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was was absolute heaven, or something like that.
Yeah.
Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be a journalist was just unbelievable. And we come out of a time, we grew up in a time of separation, I was an Afrikaans kid from an Afrikaans town where even the black people spoke only Afrikaans. This was the Northern Cape.
Yeah.
And the most important thing I learned was that people are just people.
Yeah.
That a black person, like Toku Segwali, can be sexy. That a black person, like Bishop Tutu, can be the wisest person I've ever met.
Yeah.
So, but that was what we all had to learn. And I think what people forget about the carte blanche these days, if you say carte blanche, people say investigative, find the villain of the week and nail him to the wall.
Yeah.
That wasn't what we were about in the beginning. It was, our audience was 85% white.
Yeah.
And we introduced South Africans to each other. That's what we did.
Amazing.
And I still think that was, I'm enormously proud of the contribution that the program made to shifting people's perceptions in those early years.
Yeah. And that ability that you have and that you displayed so clearly in your many years there of being direct and being brave to confront and to ask and to inquire. I mean, was that something you were born with, that quality of directness and curiosity?
I don't know. But I know that the structure of the program and before that, also there was an SABC program in 85, 86 called Netwerk, and with an English equivalent, Network. And that was actually the first place where I started experiment or finding out that I have those skills. And it was simply, this is now the job for today. And I was brought up with, you do your homework.
Yeah.
So if this is the job, then you do it. If the Minister of Education, who looks like your father, sits across you, then you have to ask him the questions that need to be asked. I discovered that I have a talent for listening. I can really listen, and I can listen with my skin. You can feel someone moving, and you say, why does that touch a nerve?
Yeah. Do you think that's a skill that one can improve? I mean, it's just such a beautiful skill.
But I think it's like a voice for singing. You either have it or you don't. But if you do, you can improve it.
Yeah, amazing. And I mean, those years of, like, when you look back, it must have been incredibly energizing and exciting, and I'm sure nerve-wracking at times, you know, the stuff that you did. Like, do you miss that, or are you in a place where, you know, that was great, you know, I'm in a different place now and I'm happy to be where I am?
I don't miss it at the moment, not at all. There were times before, and I think that's what we're going to explore, is that transition.
Yeah.
But what I always missed most was the exposure to other people's lives and other people's reality. Because we choose our friends because they are like us.
Yeah.
Because they shout for the same team and they laugh at the same jokes. And so you don't extend your horizons unless something forces you. And journalism, I think, is the most fantastic career for that reason.
Forces you into that space.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine that's one of the big challenges we've had as a country over the years, is just that inability or inaccessibility of seeing how other people live and their cultures and their values. And we've just, I guess that can only be good for a nation to be built, which is what was happening in the early 90s when you were doing your brilliant work. And even now, you've got a podcast, When Change Happens, and I was listening to a few of your episodes, also exploring the idea of change and the dynamics of change and the emotions around change. Has that been interesting work for you?
Well, it resonates, and I realize that I really didn't do a good job with the major change in my life, namely stepping away from Carte Blanche at the age of 53. So I'm not calling it retiring because I was too young. Yeah. I still had to earn money.
Yes.
And I didn't plan. One of the major points that come out in this podcast, When Change Happens, is that if you can, plan. Yeah. If you know that change is going to happen, plan. I didn't. I just knew that I didn't want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
For all kinds of reasons. And I know people are very curious, but I'm not going to start talking about it.
This is not
now.
The place that all's going to be revealed on why
Haven't
Ruda left
about
Carte Blanche.
17 years. I'm not going to start now. Yeah. But so I knew I wanted to get away, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't have anything to put in its place.
Yeah.
And what I've found in the Change podcast is to what enormous extent change is linked to identity.
Yes.
You know, when my brother retired, who's older than me, he said, it's not the doing nothing, it's the being nothing. Because our jobs define us.
Yeah.
And in my case, with Carte Blanche, I mean, can you imagine?
Yeah.
Still now, this morning, a man came up to me in the restaurant and said, can I have a selfie?
Yeah.
You know, it's 17 years.
Yeah.
So I am totally identified with that job. And it created deep uncertainty.
I'm sure.
Because I didn't put something in place.
Yeah.
I didn't mentally.
Yeah.
As I say, I still had to earn money because we also know that a job has two aspects. The one is that you have to pay the rent, or have to help pay the rent at least. And the other one is that you have certain things you want to give, you want to do, you want to put out there in the world. And both those elements have to be almost satisfied in order to, I think, make a happy person.
Yeah. But how would you have planned differently?
I should have thought what I wanted to do next. I didn't. I just thought vaguely, there's a world of freelance work and something will come up. And thank the Lord and all her angels, it did come up. Enough to pay my part of the bills.
Yes.
And there were projects that kept me busy and occupied. I did 2 series for KykNet called A Lewe Met, which was about mental health, which was wonderful and amazing with Katanka Heinz. And I helped edit 26 half hours on the Bush War.
Sure.
Which was also, and it kept me busy for a year, and which was amazing. But neither of those were my initiative. They came to me. They happened across my path. Do not leave your life for other people to arrange. You must, make some choice. I didn't plan. I didn't.
Well, you've certainly started many new chapters since then, some fascinating ones, one of which is helping graduates navigate the world of young adulthood and beyond, and an incredible insight that you seem to have gained, that so many young people in South Africa haven't had the privilege of growing up in a household where they could learn basic life skills and life tricks, I guess, that only a privileged few may have had access to. Tell us a bit about that.
It's been about 9 years now. We're in year 9. At the beginning of 2025, it will be the 9th run of our booklet called Grad.
Yes.
It started because I can't remember what triggered it, but I suddenly became aware that half of the 150,000 first years university students every year are first generation. They are the first people in their family to go beyond matric.
Yeah.
Often the first people in their family to go beyond grade 8 or something. They can't phone home. When I failed my first test, I could phone my mother and she could say, you are a very bad person, but you will get over it. Don't worry, I have walked this road.
Yeah.
This too shall pass. These kids can't do that. Yeah. No one at home has walked this road, and the whole of that family have put all their aspirations on this poor child's shoulders. So I connected with an organization called Study Trust, who does bursary administration, and they have an amazing mentoring program. And I said, could I use their content, their mentoring content, and rewrite it in a more accessible way? Put it together, and Van Skyke Publishers came to the party. They turned my Word document into a beautiful booklet. And I found first a little bit of money from one company and then a lot of money from another company. And we now print more than 100,000 of these booklets every year, and they go out to all 25 state universities in South Africa to the first years. And Grad has now, since there's a sister called Grad Next, which is for the seniors, and Grad contains things like taking responsibility, managing money, managing time, handling stress, study methods, preparing for exams, Yeah. Grad Next is how do I find out what I want to do? I now have a BA or a BCom or whatever. Where do I want to look for a job? Then how do I start looking for that job? How do I use LinkedIn? How do I write a CV? How do I prepare for an interview? You know, all those things which my son could ask his father and could ask me. These kids can't. They grew up, so many of them, in a shack with a mother doing piece jobs. How should they know how to dress for an interview? So,
Amazing.
Yeah, that happens, and it's been so fulfilling and so rewarding.
I can just imagine, and I can see your face light up when you talk about it. And I'm fascinated by, do you think as we get older we have a stronger orientation to giving back? Just something that I feel in my life, it just feels like as the years go on, I feel like it's time to spend more time. It's appropriate to spend more time giving back and less time being selfish. And do you find the same?
Well, there's an old view that life comes in thirds, that the first third is preparation, and the middle third is actually making that happen, producing, and then the last third is giving back. Yeah. And it's just such a privilege. And, you know, in South Africa, I really think that those of us who grew up in a privileged environment, and I'm not charging that idea with any kind of political feeling, it just is a fact.
Yeah.
We need to help to fill the gap, because these kids are in the situation they are in because their parents were not allowed by the structure of our society, were not allowed to gain what we gained.
Yeah.
So let's step up and do something.
Completely. Yeah. Completely agree. We talked about planning, and I met your son, Johannes, who's a wonderful guy. We met I was doing a talk at a financial conference, and I met him, and he was just charming, and he mentioned you, which means that he's obviously a very proud son. And I'm just curious, he's had now a career in finance, and he started off in the arts and the production world. This idea that he kind of helps you now in terms of planning and financial stuff, this whole idea of role reversal with our kids. How have you experienced that?
I have found, and my husband and I have found, that it is an enormous gift to now have a child, a son, who is an equal.
Yeah.
Who is our friend.
Yes.
When we talk to each other, he is just a friend, but he is the closest person to my heart, apart from, I wonder who would be
Careful.
first, he or his dad.
Yeah.
But so that's the first thing that I think, as that thing that your children do not belong to you. You have to get to a point where you actually acknowledge that they are now adults as much as you are, and you are no longer in a leading or even mentoring role. If they want to come and ask for advice, they will, and they do when things go wobbly. But at other times, I mean, Johannes now has a skill in terms of financial planning, etc., which I simply don't have. Yeah. So I just accept him as a professional who will help me with this. And because of the very deep trust that exists between us, he can tell me things and help me to understand things that a stranger maybe could not. And it's funny, I don't know if this is relevant for getting older, but my husband has the same skills. My husband is a wonderful financial manager of our stuff.
And a very famous economist as well.
But I am shy to talk to him about my finances.
Yeah.
And I'm also a bit skaamkwaad. You know, I want to be self-sufficient and independent and all of that, and I don't want to ask so much. But funny, with Johannes, I'm completely relaxed, and it's different.
That's a beautiful thing to have, you know, kids that we devote everything to. They are everything, and we sacrifice a lot in our lives for them. And I think the idea of that reversing and that care, you know, as we get older, I mean, it certainly reassures me to an extent that I have kids that, you know, they're going to take care of me in some way. I don't know what, whether it's financial or just, you know, other needs that I'll have. But it's just, I suppose, of all the fears, and I'm not, you know, I'm 54 years old, all the fears that I have around getting older, I take comfort from the fact that my family will take care of me. And I wonder about people who don't have that, you know, that security and that sense of care close by. But, you know,
I hope you mean that emotionally, because I think the biggest gift that one can give your children, if it is in your, if you are able to do that, is not ever to be financially dependent on your children.
Yeah,
that is a burden that a child should not have to carry. So live carefully so that your children don't have to look after you financially. Yeah. On an emotional level, of course, it's a completely different issue.
It's true. Yeah, I mean that is a burden that one definitely doesn't want to place on a child, and I think unfortunately there is, you know, there are many kids that are having to look after their parents. So, I mean, the whole financial planning, and clearly you've got, you know, access to the best, not only an incredible skill set that your son has, but, you know, that sense of trust, which I think is the other difficult thing to find, like somebody that really has your best interests at heart, and you can sleep incredibly well at night knowing that. So that's a beautiful thing. Tell me about your other relationships. I would imagine you've got very close friends. I can just picture you, you know, out to lunch with, you know, wonderful people and friends. And is that your world? Is it a few great friends? Is it a big network of people around you?
It's not a big network. It's a few friends. And I sometimes think at this point in my life that I should actually pay attention and consciously find more friends, I almost want to say. Because if my husband were to suddenly not be there, I don't quite know how I will fill that gap. Because he is just my best friend and my closest companion. And to link that back to what we said earlier about identity.
Yes.
You know, we are so caught up, and especially for me with such a public persona, we are so caught up in our jobs and in our professional selves. And after I left Carte Blanche, there were probably, 7-8 years in which I was quite discombobulated. I was quite, the Afrikaans word is dobberend, you know, drifting and not sure. And always the question was, who am I really if I'm not that person anymore? Yeah. But if I think of where I am now and the absolute calm that I have found, and this is not for everyone, people are different, but for me, the peace that I don't have to achieve.
That's liberating.
Just be and be in my relationships and be in this moment, and I don't have to achieve. I don't have to be smart at the dinner table or whatever.
Well, it's almost like the ego is playing much lesser part in your being, in your life.
Maybe.
And our jobs, our careers, our positions, our status just traps us in a way in that space. And it's actually a beautiful thing of aging, which you are referring to, that you're able to disconnect from that stuff that was so important at a point in time. Then maybe in that second third of your life, it is important because you need to produce, and maybe that's an important ingredient in being a producer. But when you can move on, it seems, certainly in your case, and I can just see how at peace you are, and just how happy you are in your life because you've been able to move into a new chapter.
And it's an enormous gift, but it's also not a gift. It's an achievement to arrive at 70 and be able to do things without asking who's going to pay me for this.
Yeah.
And how much. Because in that middle third of your life, you need to earn, you need to build in practical terms, build a life. But to get to this point where I can do all this work around grad, hours and weeks and at a time, no one's paying me, and it doesn't matter. Amazing. I can just give my time, give my energy, give my skills. There's no price tag. It's so much easier for me to negotiate the job if I don't have to talk about money in between. Yeah. And it's an enormously privileged position.
You can make a choice there that you wouldn't have been able to make if you were dependent financially.
Yes.
Which is fascinating. Do you ever wonder about other chapters, or aspire to other chapters, or dream about other chapters in your life with different dimensions, or is it kind of just happy place and carry on where you are?
My life has been so astonishing.
That's for sure.
Who could have thought?
Yeah.
Growing up in Hartswater and Keimus in the Northern Cape, and in this really rural environment, and even going to Stellenbosch, which was then still in the 70s an Afrikaans bubble, much more than later when a Zulu girl in my journalism class said to me, "It's a bubble of white privilege." To go from there to the point where I could do all the things that I did and go to all the places that I did, how can I wish for something else? Yeah. It was just such a gift.
When you look at young people today, people maybe younger than your son, in their teens and their 20s, I mean, is there anything that frustrates you? Obviously you are helping all these graduates. Like where is there... Are they making any clear wrong turns that, your years of experience can help guide them? Or is it just a matter of them having access to some wisdom that you're sharing? Anything that comes to mind?
Every generation thinks the kids are going to hell in a handbasket.
Yeah. It's true.
When I was at school, the parents were hysterical about LM radio.
That was the risque.
How can we know? And I think that people are so worried now about screen time and all of that. I simply don't know. And one will have to see. The world has always changed in dramatic ways. And people adjust. We are an amazingly adaptable species.
Yeah.
So what I wish I had was the kind of self-belief and self-confidence that I feel now.
Yeah.
Because I faked it to a very large extent. Because the job required it, and the job gave me permission.
Yeah.
But deep in my heart, didn't for one moment believe that could really, who was it who said, she looks at herself in the mirror and she says, "Is dit wragtig ek?"
Yeah.
So if you can, and I think that is the greatest gift that one can give one's children, is self-confidence and self-belief.
Yeah.
And but a kind of grounded self-belief, not arrogance.
Yeah.
That I am okay, and who I am and what I think is okay, and I can go forward, go out into the world with that, and I don't have to constantly look at others and see how they judge me, and am I good enough for that one, and does this group accept me, and I think, as I say, I just think that's the biggest gift one can give one's children.
Completely.
And then trust them.
Yeah.
Trust them. Yeah. We came through.
Yeah.
We're not that bad.
Amazing. And I mean, it feels like that's why you have such kind of calmness and optimism about the future and the next, 30 years, however long it is, because of your ability and your life of adaptation and just being able to adjust and adapt and see opportunities. And it just feels like it's just so, you have such a strength and a confidence in your ability to navigate life, which, that you just, so comfortable in the stage that you're in. And it's inspiring to see. It's just, I love the calmness. I love the listening skill, which, just, I wish, I think I have an ability to listen, but I just wish I could deepen it, because it helps understand the world, what's going on, because it's confusing at times, and it just helps with connection with other people, which is apparently the most important thing in terms of aging, is to have community and to have people. You talked about maybe a small circle, but an important circle of people around you. And so, just amazing to see that. Just in terms of one of the things that fascinates me is the position that older people hold in society, and in my view, the sometimes neglect in terms of how old people are perceived, how they are valued. And I mean, do you think there's anything missing in our society in terms of how we see older people? And again, we're not old, but do you think there's anything missing that you see in terms of older people? People are living longer. And
there are two things that come to mind. The first is the only thing that I would like other people to do for me is not to put me in a box.
Yeah.
At the moment, I am almost 71. I am thankfully still physically fit and whatever. And also, just by the way, I read yesterday again that an hour of exercise gives you 5 extra hours of life.
Wow. That's a good equation.
And that exercise is the single most important thing which will make the biggest change in your physical health. So,
and you do exercise?
Oh, yes, I do exercise. Yes, I'm religious about it. So, to finish the thought,
come back to it.
I'm physically okay still, but even when I am no longer physically okay, don't put me in a box. Don't just put a label on me because you see an older person in a wheelchair, say. Find out I am still an individual.
Yeah.
I mean,
the same person.
You talk about older people. They are not the same. They are individuals. Yeah.
They're the same person.
So that's the one side of the situation. But the other side is from the side of the older person. I'm a great Byron Katie fan, loving what is. As long as you say the world should treat me differently, nothing changes. The world's not going to change because you think it should.
Yeah.
The only thing you can control and can actually change is yourself and your actions and your being in the world. So older people out there, smile more.
Yeah.
Talk to people. Don't only talk about your health issues and your grandchildren. Find other interests to share. Listen. Yeah. Don't ramble on. So I also look in the mirror and I say, notes to self.
Love that.
Self, don't do that next time.
Well, I love that. I mean, it's it's having a voice.
And taking responsibility for how you are in the world.
I love that. So, the actions that you can take, and like exercise, which I'd love to get back to, and the expression of yourself to the world. And funny, Peter Dirk Ace said exactly the same thing, because I asked him about that, and he said, well, we just need to be out there, just continue to be out there and express. And if we're sitting in wheelchairs, well, let's just express what it's like, and our feelings and our thoughts, which are still there. Just our circumstance might have changed. So I think that's incredibly valuable. On exercise and routine and diet, and is that clearly it's a focus, and you're very mindful of that. What does it include?
Well, my husband and I decided this week that there's a growing tide turning against the use of alcohol. We are too old, we will drink wine. We will not change that, not in our lifetime. But I try to eat sensibly.
Yeah.
And I hate being weighed and marked and whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't do that. But if I feel my jeans are too tight, then I dial down a little bit. And I exercise. I'm very conscious of a good hour of exercise at least 3 times a week. And I think one must find something that works for you.
Yeah.
Some people are runners.
Yeah.
I walk, but I walk with a TheraBand.
A TheraBand, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I walk with a TheraBand so that I do arms at the same time. People look at me very strangely.
It's okay.
In the hills of Westcliff.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's the TheraBand lady again.
There's the TheraBand.
From Carte Blanche. From Carte Blanche.
And my special wonder cure for everything, 2 minutes of planking, 4 days a week.
Fantastic.
I have tummy muscles that a 17-year-old can be.
Brilliant. Well done.
So, and these days I discovered something called Nia dancing.
What is that?
Which is absolutely fantastic. It's a combination of aerobics and Tai Chi and other martial arts and I don't even know what. And it's moving to music, which I really enjoy.
Amazing.
Because most exercise is bloody boring.
Yeah.
Nia's never boring.
Sounds like fun.
It's enormous fun. And so find something, that's my advice. I'm preaching.
It's useful.
But thank you. Find something that works for you, that fits into your lifestyle, which you will continue. Yeah. Because if you start madly going to the gym on January 1st, it's only going to last for 2 weeks.
Same as a diet.
Yeah. So walking at our age is by far the easiest, and it's available to everyone.
It's good for your mind as well.
And if you no longer can walk uphill or on uneven surfaces, go to the mall.
Yeah.
There are miles of passages. You can find a way, but do something. Do not just sit.
So true. And where do you get your new ideas from? I mean, what do you consume in terms of discovering new things and understanding the world, and what are you reading and consuming?
I read insatiably. I read, I used to say stacks and stacks, but these days it's usually on Kindle. Thrillers and novels.
Fiction.
Fiction, lots and lots. which also teach me lessons. I reread Le Carré's Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy the other day and came across the wonderful expression that he called the CIA in the 60s. He called them fascist Puritans.
Wow.
So, fiction is it's not just fluff.
Yeah.
I do not think fiction is only fluff. But then I also read newspapers, of course, these days digitally.
Yeah.
We get I get the pink paper, the paper edition. If you can afford it, it is absolutely wonderful every Sunday. It's fantastic.
What's it called?
Financial Times.
Oh, the FT.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Really is amazing. Yeah.
And my husband likes reading the South China Morning Post because he says he needs a different viewpoint.
Yeah.
He needs literally a different viewpoint. So there's that. And then, of course, every now and again, I'm not a great non-fiction reader, but every now and again, some history book, I'm sitting with a tome at the moment that I'm immensely proud of, that I'm almost finished, called How the World Made the West, Josephine Quinn. And, you read one book like that in a year, and it shifts something. It just opens up your world. So, amazing. Yeah.
And do you and JP, your husband, have rigorous debates about current affairs, politics?
Thank the Lord we don't debate. If we really disagree, then I say, yes, dear, and we leave it at that. I literally say, yes, dear, and we laugh, and we leave it at that. JP is, for example, he's a China junkie. He loves China. He thinks it's the greatest. They are enormously admirable in many ways. And I say, remember the Great Leap Forward, which was not, etc., etc. So we agree to disagree. But we share an interest.
Yeah.
And I don't think we will have been married for 46 years in November.
Congrats.
Yes, because it doesn't somehow happen. A birthday comes on its own. You don't have to do anything to achieve a birthday. You must just be alive. A marriage, centene, what's the word? When you go back to, what's the word? Your wedding, what?
Anniversary.
Anniversary, thank you. Sorry, senior moment. Anniversary does not happen by itself.
Yeah.
You actually have to do something to achieve it. Yeah. And I don't think we would have been definitely not as close if we didn't share an optimistic view of the world. Yes, I think it must be hard to live with a pessimist. David Landy said the optimists have it. Yeah. Even if they're wrong, they at least have the energy and the whatever. But the pessimist only has, even if he's right, he only has the sour satisfaction of having been right. It's optimism brings energy. It brings a laughter. It brings happiness
and life.
And we share that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to share.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great value to share. It's just optimism about the future. I want to ask you about South Africa specifically because you were in the thick of the tumultuous times that we've had in the late 80s and the 90s and beyond. How do you see things right now?
Well, I always think that people who think it was better before 94 weren't there.
Yeah.
With 2 years of military service.
Yeah.
With every white man losing 2 years of his life economically. And camps afterwards and. With the constant tension, with, the 80s were just an absolutely horrible time.
Yeah.
Now, and contrast that with Driekus en die Bokke. And how can one not think that it's going so much better? Yeah. And of course we are one can poke holes and I am deeply aware of the contribution of my colleagues in journalism.
Yeah.
with books like all the President's Keepers and
important books,
all the others, and the work of News 24 and et cetera, and one has to. We as a society have to keep doing that, but we also have to build, and that there are so many examples of that happening in big and small. I was with an organization in Stellenbosch yesterday called Math Mums, who train unemployed women to have after-school care for little kids and help them with maths and English. And this is happening. There are little branches in the Dorens and in Franschhoek and in Stellenbosch. And with our grad work, we reach out to a whole series of NGOs and organizations. It's really 1,000 flowers are blooming. Yeah. If you think of, I don't know if you ever did a color blindness test.
No.
You get a piece of paper covered in dots, and they will be in shades of brown, say. And there will be like a 6, but the 6 is in green. So if you can't see the difference between brown and green, you won't see the 6.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at South Africa, I think many people are colorblind. If you look with a different eye, you can see the growth as well. And I mean, at this moment, with our electricity problems to a very large extent having been sorted, because of renewals mainly, but also because Eskom is performing better than it was.
Yeah.
With load shedding, therefore, at least to some extent, to a major extent behind us, the economy is going to start growing.
Yep.
The next focus is logistics and railways and ports, and that is going to make an enormous difference.
Yeah.
And then Vulindlela, the office in the president's office, is next going to focus on the municipalities. I don't know how they are going to sort that, but what is the saying? Where attention goes, energy flows.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling
more love the optimism,
more better about the country than I have in a very long time. Fantastic. Because we have been through dark days, seriously dark days.
Just switching tack a little bit, and the fascinating in terms of your choice of books and media. Netflix and all of those, do you consume?
Oh, yes. Okay,
so you find time for that as well?
But I'm a sensitive viewer. I do not watch Murder and Mayhem. I do not watch Vikings and Marco Polo, and I intensely dislike cruelty.
Me too.
On whatever level, whether it's physical or emotional. So I don't watch Succession.
Yeah. I'm the same. But traumatizes me to watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Why does one want to spend hours of your life going down that black hole?
Yeah. Amazing. And music-wise, we decided we're going to ask our guests to share, if they will, your favorite artist or song from the past that you would listen to and would trigger some memories.
Sweet Caroline.
Neil Diamond. Yeah.
I danced to Sweet Caroline many times in a garage in Uppington.
I don't know if you saw Trevor Noah. He does a bit about Sweet Caroline. He says it's like the white people song, because if you have a whole lot of white people in the audience and you play Sweet Caroline, they go berserk, guaranteed. But it's a great song. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for. There's just been a incredible insight into your remarkable life, your deliberate life, your rich life, your brave life of doing all the things you did, but then kind of realizing that was just a part of you, and it was just a chapter, and it is what people generally know about you, but it's been such a privilege to to see the different layers and see how they've evolved over time. And probably most importantly and significantly, just see your optimism, which is not a naive optimism that everything's going to be great. It's a grounded optimism based on your rich experiences, but it's just a view of the world and I think a view of yourself as well. That is, it's going to be okay. It's actually going to be okay. And it's completely uncertain. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next year or in the next decade, but it's actually going to be okay. And you've got this calmness, and if I could just take a chunk of that calmness into my life and spread it amongst all the people I love, I think it would be quite powerful. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for being here. It's been an absolute privilege.
Thank you.
Remember, retirement isn't about slowing down. It's about living the next chapter on your terms. I'm Gideon Novick, and this has been the Rocktirement podcast, brought to you by Circle Senior Living.